Hello YouTube, we're going to be going over 8 damage RE blade headhunt build. This is a long overdue video guide, but now I'm getting around to doing it because I hate editing, so yeah, but I'm going to try to do this in one take. But yeah, we'll be covering some topics that I'm listing here. Differences between 8 damage with Earth Cleaver versus headhunt. Build, runes, engravings, gems, and priority. Ark Passive, Ark Grid, rotation, and most importantly, recovery options. And I have some random stuff that I'll mention at the end, but yeah. So yeah, we'll just get started. First one, differences between 8 damage with Earth Cleaver versus Headhunt. Why would you play Headhunt? The pros, you can run Headhunt at level 7, which allows you to put more points in other skills, these being Tourney Slash, Souls Over, Blitz Rush. And the reason this is important is because Ark Grid will make it so Tourney Slash does more damage. So you want the skill at level 14. So basically you're just getting more damage. It's much faster animation, which will increase your cycling speed, so you'll send out more surges per minute. It's a ranged counter, costs less mana, one less damage gem, so be a bit cheaper, and the cooldown gem doesn't need to be very high as well. You can optionally run the AP down tripod if you don't have a bard, so this is good for like the first mode Kazaros. But note that you can only run it with an artist because you will run out of mana. And higher long stagger, so which means like on stagger checks which are super long, you'll get out more skills and much faster, and you'll overall have more stagger. And the cons, basically you only lose Earth Cleaver as a mobility option, so you lose like extra mobility that you can use to like reposition, and it's a lot less weak point. But this isn't really important because current raids don't really require weak point besides like our Moche. So yeah, this con is like negligible. But yeah, anyways, I will not be going over 7 damage spin cut build anymore, because Ark Grid will increase the attack speed of your skills, which has 0 benefit for 7 damage, which makes your cycle the same speed. But it will make your 8 damage cycle a lot faster because you have virtually no cooldowns on the build if you play optimally. So you will basically have more surges per minute running the 8 damage build with Headhunt if you play it well. Anyways, let's go over build, runes, and engravings. I wrote it all down here, but you can just check my UOO link to check my page if you want to just like copy from there. But yeah, basically you'll be running 7 wealth runes, which is 2 more than the previous build. And yes, it is necessary to cycle effectively, especially with the increased attack speed from Ark Grid. If you do need to run Purify, I honestly recommend that you run with a support that has Purify or a Gun Lancer. And if you can't, then your worst case scenario, you'll have to run it on Death Sentence, because that is your only flex rune. And this will be very bad for your gameplay. So ideally you don't run into that situation. But if you do need to, you have to run on Death Sentence, which is in Kazuro's Gate 2, you will probably need to do this if you have a Bard. And yeah, here are the skills in the tripods and runes. You can just look at this later, but basically you have level 14 skills of everything on all your damage skills, and then level 7 Headhunt, and Void Strike is level 11 because you only cast it once per 2 rotations, and overall it doesn't really do that much damage. And yeah, and then Maelstrom 10 is very obvious. And these are the runes. Death Sentence is your only flex rune, so it's Galewind / Purify. And yes, you do need to have the purple wealth rune to make this build possible. Engravings, these are non-negotiable. Grudge, Ambush Master, Adrenaline, and Raid Captain. Don't be dumb and ask about efficiency on this. Raid Captain is good. Do not listen to anyone who says that you're gonna lose uptime or whatever. You will lose some, but it doesn't mean that you're gonna have 0 damage on Raid Captain if you don't have Maelstrom up. Okay, so please Just trust me on this. Raid Captain is optimal. And then your flex engraving is going to be Keen Blunt and Cursed Doll. Keen Blunt is like the ceiling with crits in and full adrenaline books, but you can opt to run Cursed Doll. It's not really that big of a deal. I run Cursed Doll, so it's not really like you're not going to lose infinite damage or anything. And let's go over gems in priority. So damage gems, this is pretty self-explanatory. So Surge is the most important, then Death Sentence, then Twin Shadow, Turning Slash. I think Turning Slash might do more damage with full Ark Grid. I don't have full Ark Grid yet, so I'm not sure. But these are around the same damage anyways, doesn't matter. Then Soul Sword, then Blood Stretch, and then Void Strike. And then cooldown gems, Maelstrom, very important. Blitz Rush, relatively important. And then these two can be pretty low level. Overall gem priority, you want to prioritize highest level Surge gem, damage gem, and then Maelstrom cooldown. Maelstrom cooldown is going to help you recover your Maelstrom stacks a lot more often. And basically just get more surges and have more options for recovery. And then Death Sentence damage. Death Sentence does a lot of damage. So you want this at a high level as well. Blitz Rush cooldown. This will help you recover if you mess up. But you won't really be using Blitz Rush like in the Earth Cleaver build to recover. So it's slightly different from the 8 damage Earth Cleaver variant, where you would need this very high, but I'll go over that more later. And then the rest of your damage gems, and then the rest of the cooldown gems. You can opt for the cooldowns first instead of Death Sentence damage if you want to recover more with the Blitz Rush. Do note that level 10 Blitz Rush won't be enough to offset the cooldown. Like, you'll still have downtime even with Blitz Rush level 10. So ideally you're not pressing Blitz Rush as much as possible on Void Strike rotation. But yeah, we'll go over that more later. But yeah, these two are interchangeable. Death Sentence damage and Blitz Rush is up to you. All right, let's go over Ark Passive. So Ark Passive evolution is going to be the same. We have a new row here. It's going to be your elixirs. You're going to be running Master and Pulverize. Pulverize is very important because you have no evolution damage coming from your tree. You're running Standing Striker, and your third row does not have any evolution damage. So you want as much evolution damage as possible. This will increase your damage a lot. You can opt to run critical. I would only recommend running this if you have double crits in. If you don't have double crits in, you're probably just never gonna run this. So probably just stick with Master most of the time. But it is an option if you run into overcapping crit. Enlightenment Tree, exactly the same from the previous build. Nothing needs to be said. Leap Tree, this is going to be a little bit different. I did say that you don't need T-skill cooldown on the previous build, but on this build with Headhunt being such a fast cast time, you do actually need a couple points into T-skill cooldown so you don't have rotation issues. I have the bracelet that increases my skill cooldowns. So I need 2 points in this. You might not need 2 points. I don't know. I haven't tested. And you might even want 3 points. So it's kind of up to you. This is like flex, but you do need at least a couple points in this. That is non-negotiable, and you need 3 points in instant spell. This is also very important for your mana recovery. Do not run at level 2. Don't try to greed more like hyper awakening damage. Just run this level 3. And then this is exactly the same. All right, let's talk about Ark Grid. Ark Grid's pretty self-explanatory. In order of priority, you're going to run the Moon Core Art Score, then Sun Art Master, and then Star Basics. For Chaos, you'll be prioritizing Smoldering Strike and Flashy Attack. These are the two really good ones, and then Attack is the least important. But yeah, the reason we go Moon Core first is because this will increase your attack speed, so it'll directly impact your speed. So this is going to be very important with cycling. The other builds, I wouldn't really recommend running them. They haven't really worked that well in real raids, and no one really runs it, so I'm inclined to believe that the other builds are trash. as of making this video, it might change in the future. Might be different at the bounce patch because it got buffed, but I don't really see anyone swapping, so pretty sure this is just what you're gonna run. Like, you don't have to worry about like wasting your pity points or whatever. And finally, well, not finally, but yeah, we're gonna be talking about rotation. So this is just gonna be the standard rotation for 8 damage build with Headhunt. This is a lot more consistent and static compared to the 8 damage with Earth Cleaver. The 8 damage with Earth Cleaver rotation was a lot more annoying and hard to explain, but this will be pretty easy to explain, I would say, because you will be following the 2 same rotations that I will cover here. So rotation 1 is going to be Void Strike plus T. These are the pairings. Like, if you watch my other video, this is going to be the same pairings. The only difference is that you are skipping the Earth Cleaver / Headhunt on Souls or rotation because you do not need it. So basically, you're casting 1 less skill every single time if you're playing optimally, which will obviously increase your surges per minute and all that. And another thing to note, you will only use 1 Maelstrom for both of these surges. You will not have Maelstrom at the end of this Souls or rotation if you're playing perfectly, which is fine. You will lose some damage from Raid Captain, but again, you're not losing all the damage. You are just losing the Maelstrom portion of the damage from Raid Captain. So don't worry about that. And yeah, so rotation 1, Maelstrom. So you're starting with Maelstrom on Void Strike. And then Void Strike, Twin Shadow, Headhunt, T, Death Sentence, Turning Slash, then Surge. And then the next rotation, you're going to skip, or you're not going to do the Void Strike, like I said. You're going to do Souls Over, Blitz Rush, Twin Shadow, Death Sentence, Turning Slash, and then Surge. Ideally, you want a Turning Slash at the end of your Souls Over rotation. And then Surge immediately, because Turning Slash has like the follow-up damage, and you want these ticks to be in your Void Strike rotation, because the Void Strike rotation will be very tight on meter. So basically, like, you're just gonna have this, and then you're gonna get a little bit extra meter into your Void Strike rotation, which I'll talk about more later. It'll be important to make sure that you get meter during this. You don't need it, but you need to like land everything if you don't have the Turning Slash in the rotation. So just something to keep in mind. Yeah, so you will use Headhunt at the end of Souls or rotation if you need to, and if you do need to, then this rotation will change. It'll just be Headhunt at the end of the rotation after Turning Slash, because it will have a cooldown, obviously, from you pressing it on the Souls or rotation, which is fine. You'll just like lose a little bit of time, but overall, like, those are like the rotations. So yeah. So something to note. So I remember when I said you only need 1 Maelstrom for both rotations. So yeah, you will have Maelstrom for most of both rotations, but towards the end of the Souls rotation, you will have to land 3 skills in Maelstrom, and I'll go over this during the rotation while you guys are watching. You need to land Souls Over, Blitz Rush, and Twin Shadow within Maelstrom to get full meter before you Surge. What that means is, like, if it wears out after you Twin Shadow, then that's fine. You'll Death Sentence, Turning Slash, and then you'll Surge, and that will be full meter. And then obviously you won't have Maelstrom up during those 3 skills, but that's fine. You want to make sure you have your Maelstroms resetting every single time. So you like, if you need the extra Maelstrom, then you have the option to recover, which again I'll go over more later in the recovery options. So basically, the benefits of it, you keep your Maelstrom stacks, and basically if the boss like fucks off and leaves or whatever, then you don't lose any damage, and you'll have extra Maelstrom to recover your rotation. And then you also cast less Maelstrom, which in turn is less skills that you have to press to build your surge. So it's more surges per minute, and you're using less mana because casting a Maelstrom is 600 mana almost. So you're just gonna burn a lot of mana, and you don't have focus on Maelstrom, so this is very important, especially if you're playing with like a bard or something. Cons: you lose Maelstrom and lost skills in Souls rotation, which again, it's fine. You won't die. Raid Captain is still good. Run Raid Captain, and again, Raid Captain is going to be minimized by running with certain classes like War Dancer or Artist, which give movement speed. So again, do not worry about this Raid Captain engraving. Just play how you would normally play. And yeah, let me just go over the rotation real quick. The opener is going to be like essentially the same. So you're going to stack with these 3 skills. So it's Twin Shadow, Death Sentence, Headhunt. And then you're just going to go in and do the opener, which is going to be this. That's the opener, and then now you're just going to follow the rotation that I said. So yeah. We'll go over the Maelstrom stacking, so I'll explain that. So let me just do the rotation. Oh, sorry. Let me do it. So now Maelstrom's about to wear off, but I got those 3 skills in, and it wore off at the end of the Surge cycle, which is fine, like I said. So like you won't have Surge at the end of Souls rotation, but you still get full bubbles. So you see how I'm still getting full bubbles even though Maelstrom is wearing off? That's what I mean by 1 Maelstrom per 2 rotation. You see how my Maelstrom's never gonna be at 0 stacks, basically. And eventually you'll get good enough to where you don't have to really worry about like looking at your Maelstrom stacks or Maelstrom cooldown if the boss is not moving. So if the boss is tricks down like this, you will probably never have to look at your Maelstrom cooldown. It's still a good habit to look at it to make sure that you're following what I said and getting everything off, but it doesn't really matter too much, like if the boss is standing still. But obviously the boss is not always going to stand still, so you do still have to look at it time to time to make sure that you follow everything that I said. And like I said, something to note, you need Maelstrom on your entire Void Strike rotation to get full meter. That's assuming you're hitting the boss full time and not like getting passive meter from like your orb circulation Ark Passive node. Like this is from orb circulation after I surged. So you need Maelstrom during the whole Void Strike rotation, and you need Maelstrom during the first 3 skills of your Souls rotation. So Souls Orber, Blitz Rush, and Twin Shadow, these need to be under Maelstrom, and then you no longer need Maelstrom to fill your rotation. Sometimes you will miss Maelstrom ticks on the boss, which is going to be normal because obviously the boss is going to move and not just sit there. So in that case, like if you're like building meter, so let's say like you're like about to fill meter. So let's just, I keep messing up. But basically, if you're like just a tick off from meter, like you'll know if like you miss skills or whatever, or miss like Maelstrom ticks. Like if when you play the build enough, you'll just use Headhunt at the end of the rotation. I'll just use Headhunt here, and then you just continue with your Void Strike rotation, and then you use Headhunt at the end of that one, which is fine. You just have to use Headhunt at the end of the Void Strike rotation instead of after Twin Shadow. So yeah, that's the rotation. Yeah. Anyways, we'll talk more about the rotation in recovery options. So this is arguably the hardest part of playing this build. Knowing what to do when you mess up and knowing when you messed up and how to fix it. So you will be messing up a lot. You will be two bubbling a lot. You will be running into a lot of issues. T skilling during rotation. When you're T skilling on Soul's Orb rotation and then you have to like fix it, there's a lot of things that you'll run into that you'll naturally find yourself in, and I'll try to cover almost every situation that you'll find yourself in, so you know what to do and how to fix it optimally, and then go back to the static rotation that I just mentioned, that I just showed you with the one maelstrom per two rotations, and yeah, so yeah, keep in mind, in order to recover to optimal rotation above, you will need to fit as many skills in each maelstrom window as possible. So let's say you messed up and then you use one of these recovery options that I listed. Basically, you want to use every maelstrom to its maximum potential. So what that means is try to fit as many skills as possible in each maelstrom window, and eventually you'll fix the rotation if you keep doing that. This is also something that you learn when you play 7 damage, but I never really made a 7 damage video or anything, or explained it. So this is just like the idea behind it. So Maelstrom is like, obviously Maelstrom is your meter gain. You get extra meter gain when you hit skills. So make sure that you land as many skills as possible in the Maelstrom window so you don't run into the issues that I mentioned. So the first recovery option is just save your awakening for recovery. Not much needs to be said about this. Basically, you're going to be saving awakening when you're learning the build initially, because you will mess up, like I said, and this is just like an easy get out of jail free card. And it gives you full bubbles with Maelstrom. So you want to make sure you have Maelstrom up when you awaken. And one thing to note is that you will run into a lot of issues when you use Awakening to recover, because you probably will forget which rotation you are going to follow. So you need to make sure you use the correct rotation after you use Awakening. And yeah, again, you will mess this up a lot. You just need to drill it in your brain enough times until you eventually learn which rotation to use after what. The guideline, if you awaken to recover, basically you're just going to check the T skill cooldown. And if it's like a long cooldown, you're going to use Soul Absorber rotation because you don't have T up. And then if it's on a low cooldown, you will use Void Strike, okay? So basically if T skill is up, use Void Strike. If it's not up, use Soul Absorber. That's the idea behind it. Yeah, and then we'll talk about two bubble surging. So you will two bubble surge a lot. I still two bubble surge. If you watch my stream, you'll see me do this a lot, at least like once per raid. It's very normal. But one tip I would give to make sure that you don't two bubble surge is to play a bit slower, because the build is very fast paced, and losing time casting your skills or like waiting to see if you get full meter is a DPS loss. So eventually you'll get good enough to know which skills give you which meter, when you'll get full bubbles, and all that, and when you won't get full bubbles, so you have to use extra skills to fix your rotation. And two bubbling surge is actually not that bad. You just have to wait a little bit on certain rotations. So there's a couple situations where when you two bubble surge, so if you two bubble surge on Void Strike rotation, you'll have to press Blitz, Souls over Blitz Rush and other skills. And then since you get less cooldown reduction on your skills, your T will be kind of a long cooldown. So you will have to wait like around 4 seconds for the T skill to come up on Void Strike rotation, following a two bubble. And then if you two bubble like after Souls Orbering, then you're gonna run the Blitz Rush, or sorry, you're gonna run the Void Strike rotation and wait for T to come up. It's kind of a long wait. 4 seconds is a long time on this type of build where you have no cooldowns. But that's like how you would fix it. If you don't want to wait for T, what you can do is you can refer to the recovery option where T is desynced, which I'll explain later. Or you can use Awakening, which I explained up here. So you can use Awakening, and let me just show you real quick. When, let's say if I 2-bubbled. Sorry. Okay, so build meter. So now I have souls over rotation, and this should be like pretty close to full meter. And now you have to wait for the T skill to come up. So it's kind of a long wait, especially if you're doing a build like this. So you see how like when you 2-bubble, like you're kind of waiting. It's not that bad of a wait. Initially, you probably just want to like wait for that T skill cooldown, because you will probably not really know what to do. So it's just easier to wait. But another thing you can do, like if you don't want to wait, so if I 2-bubble here, if you don't want to wait, you get full meter here, then you surge, and then you can awaken, T, and then you just continue with your rotation. So it'd be souls over rotation. So that's option 1 with the awakening. And if you, let's say you 2-bubble surge, so there you can just follow the blitz rush rotation. Oh, you gotta make sure you have Maelstrom up, and then you surge, and then now you just follow your souls over rotation. Alright, okay. Well, I 2-bubbled. I wasn't supposed to 2-bubble, but yeah, you would have 3-bubble ideally, and then continue with your void strike rotation. So hopefully that wasn't too hard to follow. Basically, so these two options. You can wait for T skill to come up on the void rotation, or you can just continue. You can just continue and then use the blitz rush to recover. And I'll go over more of that later, explaining these. So yeah, void strike rotation recovery. Basically, one thing you need to know is that you need Maelstrom for the entire void strike rotation, or you will be short meter. And this is not include, like, let's say like you wait and like you have downtime where you're not hitting the boss, you get orb circulation meter. You won't need as much meter, but let's say you just surge, you will need Maelstrom for the entire void rotation, otherwise you will not have enough meter to surge. Also, Maelstrom needs to be hitting the boss as well, so make sure that you're on the boss, obviously. Yeah, if you don't have full meter at the end of your void strike cycle, you gotta prioritize these skills in order. And again, you would just use second Maelstrom before you finish the rotation if it's gonna wear off. So if it's gonna wear off, just use second Maelstrom at the end of the void strike rotation, or towards the end, and then you'll have full bubbles, and then just fit as many skills as possible, like I said, in the souls over rotation with that previous Maelstrom that you just pressed. So yeah, basically, second Maelstrom, this is a priority. And then if you don't have enough meter after following your rotation, then you're going to use second Twin Shadow and then Blitz Rush. So before, it used to be Blitz Rush and then second Twin Shadow. But now you're just going to swap these two, because Blitz Rush will have some problems with cooldown on Souls Over rotation if you use Blitz Rush instead. But it's still like a good recovery option, especially if you have like a level 10 cooldown. You won't be waiting that long on it. It's just, it will be noticeable downtime if you use Blitz Rush instead of second Twin Shadow recover. And then last, you use Souls Over if you need even more meter than all this. Obviously, you want to avoid this at all costs, but press it if necessary if you need to fill your meter and you know you won't get enough meter using these three. This is like worst case scenario. But yeah, I explained reasoning for second Twin Shadow. Basically, Blitz Rush is a much longer cooldown, so I'll just show you. So let's say I use Blitz Rush at the end of this. See how long I have to wait for Blitz Rush there? Let's just use it again here to show you. This is with a level 10 cooldown also. So you're waiting essentially like 1 full second for it to come up on your Souls Over rotation. So basically, very bad. You don't want to do that. So you're just gonna opt to use second Twin Shadow instead. So second Twin Shadow instead. And then again, you want to fit as many skills as possible in the Maelstrom that you casted. And then you see, you just use Headhunt on the Souls Orb rotation to fix it. Which is fine because Headhunt's a low cooldown and it's there for you to like press to get meter. So basically, if you use second Twin Shadow, you're just going to use Headhunt instead of Twin Shadow on the Souls Orb rotation. And then that will recover your second Twin Shadow stack. So let me just show it again. So let's say I use second Twin Shadow here. But now you use Headhunt instead of the Twin Shadow. You see how I got my Twin Shadow back? And now you're just back to regular rotation, right? So show it one more time. And then now you just do the regular rotation with Headhunt, skip Twin Shadow, and then now you're fixed. Okay? So that's this recovery option. So second Twin Shadow is always going to be optimal. Can use Blitz Rush, it's fine, but you do lose 1 second or even more depending on your cooldown level of Blitz Rush. But it's still fine to press this. Souls Orb obviously going to be a worst case scenario. You will only press this if you messed up really badly. Okay, next recovery option, missing Void Strike entirely. This actually isn't as bad as you think. You would think it's bad, but you can actually recover with if you have all your skills up, which is also the reason why you do want your second Twin Shadow up. You do eventually want to recover a second Twin Shadow stack. See, a lot of people always like leave it at 1 stack. So in times where you miss Void Strike entirely, you're going to be using all of your skills to recover. So let's say I missed my Void Strike, I'll just skip it. So yeah, I use all my skills except for Void Strike. So that includes second Twin Shadow, Headhunt, Death Sentence, Turning Slash, and Blitz Rush. So you got to use all 3 of these. So two stacks Twin Shadow, and the rest of your skills, and then Blitz Rush. And you will need Maelstrom up during this whole thing, otherwise you will not get full meter. So we'll show it again. I messed up, but basically, like, you might have to wait a little bit depending on like when you surge. And now you just follow your Souls Orb rotation again. And again, you'll have to wait for a Blitz Rush. And then now you're fixed, right? So a lot of things to think about here, but you'll eventually learn it when you play the build more. So yeah, you don't actually need Void Strike on this rotation. In a real raid, following this rotation without Void Strike actually is not too bad. You'll find that it's gonna be fine when you do this. So you won't need Souls Orb. If you use Souls Orb, or if you need to use it, then that's where you're gonna lose a lot of time and a lot of damage. Also, another thing to note, you can use Blitz Rush earlier in the rotation. I use it like at the end there, kind of. But if it's up sooner, you can press it sooner. So it comes up faster in your Souls Orb rotation. Also, another thing to note, if you Blitz Rush and then Surge, if you have high ping, even on low ping, I'm on like 30 ping. If you Blitz Rush and then Surge, even though you know Blitz Rush gives you full meter, it will still count as a 2 bubble a lot of the time. So you want to be careful to use when you use Blitz Rush and then Surge. So that's something to keep in mind. Okay, let's talk about Souls Orb rotation recovery. Let's say you miss some skills on Souls Orb and now you want to know what to press to fix your rotation. So again, you only need Maelstrom for the first 3 skills to get full meter. This is assuming you're hugging the boss and hitting the boss with your Maelstrom ticks. So Souls Orb, Blitz Rush, and Twin Shadow. Basically, you don't want to overcast skills if it's not necessary. It will lower your cycling speed, but in some cases, you'll have to like press extra skills. That's just natural and part of playing the build when you play it in a real raid. You need to be aware of your meter gain and determine if you use extra skills or not. So that includes whether you missed any skills or missed Maelstrom ticks. This one's a lot harder to follow, but you just have to like keep track of your meter, and you'll eventually learn over time what gives you what amount of meter, and if you miss some skills or whatever, like when you're doing a rotation. So that just comes with time. It's going to be hard to learn, obviously, at first, but when you play the build more, you'll eventually learn. So in order of priority, you will run these 3 skills. So Headhunt, ideally you get enough meter with just Headhunt. If you use Headhunt, you don't really lose anything. It's essentially the same as using Earth Cleaver at the end of your Soul's rotation on the previous build, but this is much faster, so you don't actually lose that much, and it costs essentially no mana. So using this is not the end of the world. Then you use second Twin Shadow. This will be not as good because obviously you do want second Twin Shadow, but that's fine. On the Void Strike rotation, if you do use second Twin Shadow, you will have to use Void Strike and then Blitz Rush, and then you'll have to wait on Blitz Rush cooldown, like I said. Or you can just opt to use second Twin Shadow on Void Strike rotation, and then hopefully get enough meter on your Soul's rotation with Maelstrom stacks to recover your Twin Shadow stack. So remember when I was talking about like pressing my Soul's over. So let's pretend I use second Twin Shadow here. So yeah, you use Headhunt instead of Twin Shadow to recover the stack. So that's essentially what I'm going to be talking about. So the same thing here. Basically, you want to press second Twin Shadow here if you have to, and then you'll eventually recover it on your Soul's rotation, and you just use Headhunt to fill your meter on Soul's rotation, and then you'll get the second Twin Shadow stack back. So yeah, it's not bad to use second Twin Shadow, just only use second Twin Shadow ideally on Void Strike rotation, and if you do need to use it on Soul's rotation, just make sure that you skip Twin Shadow on Soul's. So I know that's a lot. Basically, you're gonna skip Twin Shadow on Soul's rotation, okay? After recovering, obviously, and then Void Strike, you're always gonna be using Twin Shadow. Twin Shadow is gonna be fine to use, even if you only have 1 stack, because you're gonna try to recover it on Soul's when I was showing you just then. Okay, if you're not able to get 3 skills in Maelstrom window, you're going to be doing this instead. So ideally you have a Maelstrom stack available, and if it wears off at any point before you get the 3 skills off, you're just going to press it again. So you're going to, let's say like it wears off after Soul's Over, then you will use, oh, I forgot, Blitz Rush here. Let's say you, again, let's say you have Maelstrom and it wears off, then you just use Maelstrom anywhere within these 3 skills, and then just follow the rotation. So yeah, basically same thing, just using second Maelstrom instead, and then ending with Turning Slash into Surge. If you can get full meter at the end of Soul's rotation with Headhunt, use Headhunt instead of second Maelstrom to keep your stacks. So let's say you're like barely off meter, which is going to happen a lot. You can opt to use Headhunt instead to fill your meter instead of using Maelstrom, and this will keep your Maelstrom stacks and keep your rotation clean and have the Maelstroms available in case like you need it, right? I usually opt for second Maelstrom if it wears out towards the beginning rotation. Like I said, I do this usually. It just because it will just speed up your entire rotation when you get extra attack speed, movement speed, and it'll give you damage from Raid Captain, and it leaves you with less guessing if you need extra recovery options at the end to get your 3 bubble surge. So basically, just use second Maelstrom if you feel like you need to. Obviously, you don't want to overcast too much, but depending on the situation, you'll be pressing it here and there. And yeah, overall, it just makes the rotation not take too long. There's no wrong answer as long as you get the 3 bubble surge. And again, like I said, if you eventually want to fix your rotation, just keep in mind that you're trying to fit as many skills as possible in each Maelstrom window, and that's how you will eventually fix your rotation. So initially, when you're going to be playing the build, you're probably going to be on 0-stack Maelstrom a lot. So basically, like I said, you just want to fit as many skills as possible, and eventually it'll fix, and then you will have 2 stacks Maelstrom during downtime, or just like whenever you get enough skills in each rotation, and getting your surge. All right, so let's say you miss Souls Over entirely. This is pretty ugly. Ideally, you don't miss Souls Over, but you know it'll happen sometimes. It won't be as clean as missing Void Strike, but you can opt for the following. You must have Maelstrom up during the whole time. So let's say you miss Souls Over, then you would have Blitz Rush, Twin Shadow, Death Sentence, Turning Slash, Headhunt, second Twin Shadow. And that's going to be like your rotation, and then you will have to use your second Maelstrom because you need Maelstrom up during the whole thing, like I said. And you're just going to be waiting for a Maelstrom Ticks / Ark Passive Orb Circulation to fill your meter. Because these skills won't be enough to get you full meter. I'll just show you real quick, I guess. Did I skip? Oh, I wasn't supposed to T, but let me just show it again. So yeah, you'll have to wait a little bit at the end here, waiting for your Maelstrom Ticks and your Orb Circulation to give you the meter. So you see how much longer that took than the Void Strike. But ideally, that doesn't happen. But yeah, that's an option that you can do. If you need more meter, like you'll notice if you need more meter than what I just said. If you don't have Maelstrom up or whatever, then that's like when you would have to use Void Strike to recover. And obviously that's not ideal because you need to use Void Strike on your next rotation, but you know you'll have to do it sometimes. So just keep that in mind. It'll basically be your last resort, but yeah, you will have to do this sometimes. When you learn the fight initially, you will have to do it a lot more, but once it's on reclear, you probably will never run into this issue. And that brings us to our last recovery option. So this is like a very common incident that happens, and I get this question a lot. So what happens when you T-skill off syncs from your Void Strike rotation and you end up using T-skill on Souls Over rotation? And this is going to happen a lot, especially when you use Awakening, like I said. That's also why I said, like, after you use Awakening, you want to make sure you're using the right rotation. Otherwise, you'll run into this issue where you have T-skill not on your Void Strike rotation. Basically, this is going to be something you'll run into a lot. And I didn't mention this in my last video because I was still learning the build and I wasn't really sure what to do or even remember what to do. But I'll go over here. So you will probably be doing this rotation if you mess up, and you will eventually want to fix to the standard rotation. So what it's going to look like is you're going to be doing Void Strike with Blitz Rush instead, and then it would be Souls Orb with T. And this is not optimal because you will have to use Headhunt on both rotations. And that's just the extra skill that you're pressing on either rotation. It's not the end of the world, but obviously it's not optimal because you're pressing an extra skill per rotation and it's making the rotations take longer. So yeah, obviously that's not optimal. If you find yourself using T on Souls rotation, there's a couple ways to fix this. We have 3 options. So option 1, this is probably the most common option that people do, but I would say is the worst option. You should not do this. So you would just skip T on Souls Orb Blitz rotation. So like the cooldown's up on your Souls Orb rotation, but you just don't press it until you go to your Void Strike rotation. This is obviously not optimal. You don't want to do this because you're going to lose a lot of T cast doing this. So yeah, that's an option, but I wouldn't recommend it. Option 2, use Awakening Recover. You're probably going to use this one a lot, especially as a newer player to the build. So what it'll look like is Souls Orber, plus T rotation, then surge, and then you're gonna awaken on your next rotation with Maelstrom. So this will basically cover your essentially be your Soul's rotation, or sorry, your Blitz Rush rotation, because you just T'd, and then you just use whatchamacallit, you use Soul's Over again, and then continue your rotation. So I'll just show you real quick what that looks like. Let's say I use Soul's Over with T. So now you just use Awakening. Oh, it's Void Strike actually, not Soul's Over again. So yeah, you do Void Strike with T. So yeah, that'll essentially cover your Soul's Over rotation. So I'll just show it again. So Soul's Over, T, and then Awakening. This would be essentially your Soul's Over rotation. And then now you use your Void Strike with T. So that's that would be an easy way to fix that. But this is also just comes with knowing you gotta make sure that you're actually pressing the right rotation after you awaken. Otherwise, you just awaken for nothing. So yeah, this is a easy way to do that. Option 3, the most common option, because you probably won't have Awakening, and you don't want to lose any T skills. So this is probably what's gonna happen most of the time. So after Void Strike rotation without T, you're gonna do Void Strike rotation again. And I know it sounds like weird, and it's gonna be like kind of weird muscle memory. But just follow along here. I'll explain it. So let's say you Void Strike without T, and now you're just gonna do Void Strike rotation again with T. But obviously your Void Strike cooldown is gonna be super long. You're gonna have to wait like around 5 seconds for it to come back, which is obviously not optimal. But I recommend doing this when you know the boss will be unhittable or have downtime. This includes like forced mechanics or just overall bad patterns. And it'll essentially make it so you have 0 downtime and continue your standard rotation. So I'll show you what it looks like here. So if I T on Soul's rotation, now I Void Strike rotation. Now you Void Strike here, and then you continue. So you see, like, it's kind of like a long time you're waiting. So you don't really want to do that, obviously. So I'll show it one more time. So Soul's Over, and then you do this rotation. And now you're just waiting for a Void Strike cooldown. This is, yeah, again, it's not optimal, but it is an option. And again, pairing it with when the boss is unhittable or has downtime where you're not hitting the boss, this is completely fine. You won't really lose any damage by doing this. This is what I recommend, again, when it's unhittable. And the second option, you will be doing Void Strike without T. And then when you miss, let's pretend that you missed Void Strike. You just do the recovery option that I explained above, where you miss Void Strike entirely. So you would just use 2-stack Twin Shadow, Death Sentence, Turning Slash, Headhunt, and then second Twin Shadow and Blitz Rush. And I recommend doing this if you have 2 stacks of Twin Shadow and Blitz Rush available. And again, you would need Maelstrom up during this entire process, otherwise you won't get full meter. Yeah, so you don't actually need Void Strike to do a rotation, so as long as you have these two available, you can fix the rotation. So I'll show real quick how that looks like. So let's say I'm on this rotation. I just used my second Twin Shadow, but basically, yeah. Let me try doing it again. So yeah, you do this, and then you'll have T up, and then now you just follow your Soul's rotation because you just T'd, right? And yeah, it'll look a little bit different when you're in a real raid, because it's kind of hard to like simulate it in Trixion. I don't really have any videos because I would have to look through it and it'd take a lot longer to do. That's essentially the idea. So yeah, those two options. These are going to be the most common options, like I said, again. So just wait for Void Strike to come up is your first option. This is ideal when there's downtime or you're not able to hit the boss. And then the second option, which is to just follow the missed Void Strike entirely rotation right here. So basically, you just use 2 Twin Shadows, Headhunt, T, Death Sentence, Turning Slash, and Blitz Rush. And then this should be enough for your search. So yeah, those are the recovery options. I don't think there's any more. But yeah, another thing to note that I kind of mentioned already, but basically if you need to use the extra skills, let's say like I don't have full meter and I use Soul's Over to fill. Now I just have to wait for Soul's Over to come out on this rotation. And then now it's fixed, right? That's like if you mess up like really badly. I just 2-bubbled, but so yeah, let's use all my skills, like I said. And then now you'd have to wait for your skills up, right? It's gonna look a little bit different in a raid, like I said again, because it's hard to simulate in Trixion, but yeah. It just comes to fitting as many skills as possible in your Maelstrom windows, so you get enough meter to eventually like fix your rotation. So like when you mess up badly, like what I just showed you, you'll eventually have to like keep cycling and fix your rotation. And this just comes with playing the raids and fixing your rotation and learning like what you can do and what you can't do. And I tried to cover everything, but obviously you're gonna run into like issues and like you probably won't know what to do, but eventually when you play the raid enough, you'll learn more of what to do. And yeah, I mean that's basically the entire guide. If there's any other things that I need to mention, I'll explain it, which is going to be in this section. You can probably just go to my YouTube comments or Twitch stream if you want to if you want me to explain more of what to do, or if you have any more questions on anything I didn't cover here. And yeah, I mean that's the end of the video. One thing I will note is sometimes you'll run into rotations where you use your T and then you build meter, and then let's say the boss like disappears and then your T skill is going to come up. This is like more of an advanced thing to say like you're waiting for like a mechanic, cutscene, whatever, and you have T skill cooldown. So now you press T and now you just do your rotation, your Soul's Over rotation, because you just use T, right? And you will have to wait for Soul's Over Blitz Rush to come up because like obviously it's not going to be 0 cooldown. So in that case, you just use your other skills that are up instead. I'll show it one more time. Say like you didn't surge. Sorry. Okay, you get the idea. But basically, you have your T skill coming up and you didn't surge. And yeah, so like the T skill's coming up, and then you'll have some downtime on your Soul's Over Blitz Rush, but that's okay. You can just use Twin Shadow, Death Sentence, and these other skills while you're waiting for these 2 skills to come up. So essentially what I'm trying to say is that you'll get an extra T skill cast, but you will have to wait a slight period for Soul's Over and Blitz Rush to come up, because obviously these are a little bit longer cooldown than T, like when you do your rotation. And that was probably a lot to explain, but yeah. Anyways, that's the end of the video. If you have any more questions, just drop a comment or, you know, go to my Twitch stream and ask me questions. I mainly only do Twitch content. I am not good at this video thing, so sorry if this took too long to explain or if I didn't explain everything properly. Tried my best. I'm not really an editor, so just a one take thing. And just remember to like, comment, sub, and yeah, go drop a follow at my Twitch stream, and you know, you can always ask me questions on Twitch stream or even Discord, which I'll link below, okay? So, peace. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys later.